Hey there, welcome to another episode where we dive deep into the failures of successful individuals. Today, we've got the incredible Netflix founder, Reed Hastings, in the spotlight. Get ready for an inspiring journey as we explore the setbacks and triumphs that shaped Reed's life and the incredible lessons learned that will inspire you.
Really, my orientation was always just to build things. And many of the ideas I had were bad ideas. And then eventually, one of them worked. So one of my first ideas, in the old days, we had desktop computers instead of laptops. And it'd be a big screen and a mouse here. And as I was trying to type, I would always go over to the mouse and come back and this kind of thing. And it was very inefficient. And so I realized, the way it should work is you keep your hands on the keyboard and use your foot on the mouse. Okay? And so I invented the foot mouse. And I was a graduate student at Stanford University. I was all excited to drop out and to create the foot mouse company. And what I realized, we did some prototypes, is after about half an hour, your leg cramps. Okay? And second, it's very dirty. So after 2 or 3 days, you'd have to clean the mouse. It's gross. And that this was never going to work. So luckily, I did not quit university. But that's my orientation. I'm not particularly a good picker. I just keep trying things. And so 25 years ago, my friend and I had this idea to put DVDs in the mail and to post them to each other, and it worked. We thought at first they would break and shatter and all of that, but the DVD is very tough. And so for 10 years, all the company did is mail DVDs. We had a lot of competition with Blockbuster at the time. And then eventually, as YouTube grew, we could see that streaming was going to be possible. And so in 2007, we launched our first little bit of streaming, and it worked, and we did a little more and more. And then we started doing additional countries, because when you're with the Post, we were just in one country in the US. And the two moments that were the greatest moments for me at Netflix. And so when I think about you guys starting out, I have to tell you, I did not have a path. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was a teacher for a few years. I did some software, and I just kept trying things and failing. And then eventually, one of them, DVD by mail, worked. And then once I had an idea that worked, I was just all the time focused on that idea. So I can't tell you if you do these 3 things, you'll be really successful. I can tell you if you're open to new experiences and ideas, and you're around a lot of interesting people who are trying things, then there's a good chance that you will be able to build something that you are very excited about. But it has to come because your inner drive is to change things.
Well, as a painful learning was in my first company, which was about 30 years ago. Was a technical software company, and I wrote about this in the book. Every time someone made a mistake, I put a process in place so we didn't make that mistake again. And over time, we became filled with process, and we had the people who liked following process. And then the market shifted, and we were unable to adapt because people weren't thinking about the right thing for the business. They were thinking about following the process. And that's when I realized that if you optimize for efficiency, you don't have much flexibility. And for a creative business that's going to change a lot, it's better to focus on flexibility and tolerate less efficiency, kind of managing on the edge of chaos.
The lessons I learned is why we spent so much time in culture on Netflix, wanting to be different, than the first company.
Okay, but if you're a creative organization, what you want to do is make it safe for people to make mistakes and to try things. Sort of managing on the edge of chaos, where you're very creative, but it hasn't actually tipped into chaos. We model ourselves on professional sports, where you want the team to really work well together and to play their heart out I mean, athletes know that they can be injured at any moment, but they don't focus on it. They focus on how do they play the best game that they can. And our employees are similar. They focus on how do they have an incredible professional experience, learn a lot, grow an incredible amount, and change the company for the better.
So to set some context, we were a DVD by mail business. In 2002, we went public. Blockbuster attacked us, as they should. They were a little bit late, but we really were executing well. They eventually declared bankruptcy, first Chapter 9 and then wonderfully Chapter 7. And that was in 2009. So we're like full of steam energy. We're getting into streaming. We're opening up new countries. We're like running ahead, and we realized, oh my God, this DVD thing is going to hold us back. We had been thinking about streaming for 15 years, okay, since starting in '97. This was our moment, and we were going to be the one. If you think of all management teams, how many are too cautious at preserving the current business, and how many are too aggressive at pushing into the new business? Well, obviously everyone's too conservative. So we realized we had to be so aggressive that it should make the hair on the back of our neck stand up, okay? Because human nature is conservative, and most very good management teams were too conservative. So the most radical thing we could think of was to dump the DVD business. And it was 80% of our consumption because the internet was so slow back then, and we didn't have streaming to the television. You know, there's a number of limiters. But we came up with this idea, and we knew it was going to be difficult because you know, we cared about the customers, we could see that, but we thought it was still the right thing to do. And now there's a good test case where a management team was too aggressive about leaning into the future, and that was us. So we leaned in, and you're right that most customers did not care about streaming, did not have streaming, couldn't watch it on the television, and so it was just too early.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the idea basically worked, which is Netflix became streaming and DVD shrunk year by year by year. But we overcorrected, and we were overconfident. You know, we had all these battles and various things and naysayers. And so when you've had a lot of naysayers and then you were proven right, then the next round of naysaying comes in and you're like, ah, whatever, we've seen this before. And this time it was too much. And it was traumatic. It felt roughly like you're driving and you get distracted reading a text and you crash, and your kid in the back seat's in the hospital. Like the kid being the company. It wasn't dead, but it was severely wounded. Our stock was down 75%. We had our first big layoffs. It was everything that was horrible guilt that should be, of again, trying to learn the lessons that most management teams are too conservative. So therefore, we knew we had to push it to the edge. You know, you'd love to say you could do everything right, but I would say the same aggressiveness that made us take on Blockbuster, figure out these things, got us into streaming, got us in original content, that aggressiveness, part and parcel of it was you're going to go too hard some of the time. So you just want to make sure you have a balance sheet and a board of directors that can handle that. So I don't think it's a fair, sure, I wish we could have not made that mistake. Think of it like, then we would have won the Olympics and stuck the landing, okay? And we didn't stick the landing, okay? But we got through it and we won. And so one of the big things we had to do is not overcorrect. Like, you know, the company and employees and the shareholders were traumatized. So we did have to go a little bit more cautious in the short term. But pretty quickly we got back to, you know, this is our play to run and we've got to run it. And I think that was the right strategy, even though it means that occasionally you're going to make an egregious mistake because you're moving so fast.